Heavy Slam Wailord is the gift that keeps on giving with the responses that people have about it. You aren't going to believe this one, and the only reason I'm making a video is to document that it actually happened. So we have just all this stuff going on where I'm just like, yo, people don't know that Analytic Magneton is more damage than Mewtwo? That's the whole point of damage theory. That's like the whole point of my channel for almost the last decade, is pointing out how the basics of Pokemon work, and people struggle with it, even large creators, because, oh, it turns out when everyone's just cheating, it leads to no one understanding anything about Pokemon, and Smogon players just being awful at the game. So you're not the best competitive player, you aren't even close to top 100, that's just even a complete lie from my pedigree, just how long I've been playing, how many tournament wins, how well I consistently place on the online ladder and stuff. I also got top 1% on the Pokemon Showdown ladder, so no matter what you do, you can't win against haters. They always move the goalpost or just reject any of the objective accomplishments you've had. And here we go. You're one of the biggest morons I've ever met. You used Heavy Slam Wailord when you could have had Surf, which would have done more damage because of Stab. Your history is stupid Wi-Fi battles. By that logic, if we're going by id, probably be better than you if I'm not already. So not stupid Wi-Fi battles, it's actually like laddering with some gimmicks, but also showing I'm skilled enough to make silly gimmicks work and win very consistently and always have like a 60% plus win rate. Did I rack up a ton in Omega Ruby off Sapphire? Back to Heavy Slam Wailord. So I mean, we can already see this is a strange individual where like they can't keep a train of thought and they distract thinking that they're making some kind of point, and then they have to remind themselves and tell everyone that they're getting back to the point. And that's going to be a trend for the rest of this conversation because it splits a half dozen times and becomes almost impossible to keep track of, because that's how you know you're dealing with a well individual. Back to Heavy Slam Wailord. It doesn't even provide coverage or hit anything it needs to. Most of your builds are like this. I very fondly remember mocking you for hours as a little kid. Yes, a little kid. Bold move to admit that you've let a Pokemon moveset live rent-free in your head for over 9 years, and you've accomplished so little in your life that all you have is fondly looking back and mocking someone that didn't even know you existed. And this is just the average person in the Pokemon community now. They are that negative, they are that hateful, they are that toxic, and they're also just that stupid. You constantly starting problems in a community that doesn't like you. You're constantly making one of the dumbest Pokemon sets I've ever seen. Most of them aren't even creative. They're just things I'd see a third grader do because he felt silly. You expect people to join you and then piss and moan when it comes to bite you in the butt. Well, yeah, I underestimated how much evil was in the Pokemon community, including you and just the people that want to be as shitty and negative as possible. Would have never expected that in Pokemon, and I will complain when I'm the only positive, good influence in the Pokemon community from a content creator standpoint. Like, that's unbelievable, and it's further being proven through interactions like this. I often wonder why and how someone can end up like this, questioning what the causation is, so I ask you this. Why continue, after years of dealing with this, why continue in taking part in a community that hates you? Now, the problem with people that are terminally online and just become sacks of hatred and toxicity within their communities is that they don't understand what it means to have values. I love Pokemon, and I want to do good by the thing I love, and this is the way to do it. And then they just want you to give up. See, that's the thing. They bully you, they harass you, they hate you until you eventually give in or give up. Why continue trying to save something if you're not a part of it? See, they have no spine, they have no morals, they have nothing to fight for in their life, because even as admitted, the only accomplishment they have is mocking someone for 9 years, and they haven't... They peaked 9 years ago by mocking a YouTuber that didn't even know they existed. So, that just kind of shows it. When the only thing you're doing is causing problems. If saying lying, cheating, and stealing is wrong, is causing problems, that means I'm in the right place, that I need to be doing the right thing. But again, we just have more miserable, hateful people agreeing with all this. You actively cause problems. Except I don't. And then here's a really easy way to spot a toxic person or a toxic community, is that if they just reply with memes and images and just nasty stuff while also being in like their little hate circle, you know, so why? Why do it? And then this is why I mess with you, my goat. So it's like, oh yeah, they're just blowing each other off of hatred. Cool. But now let's actually get into the competitive Pokemon breakdown of this discussion, because that's where things get wild. This dude calls me a moron and then says Surf Wailord is the play. But I mean, once you go Curse, you have more damage. That also means you have more durability, and you're playing a completely different moveset. And then they say to just use Waterfall. But they also said that one of the issues with my moveset is that it doesn't have coverage. It's like Mono Water versus Mono Steel in Generation 6. The whole point of the Wailord was that. If you use Waterfall, you get walled out by Water Absorb Pokemon, Storm Drain Pokemon. There's actually multiple things that just do not care if you hit it with a Water type move. And also, Fairies were pretty popular because of like the new fun Pokemon. So with that, like, yo, you kind of want to Heavy Slam the Fairy type Pokemon and some other matchups, and it just goes better. So use Waterfall. And then you lead into like the same, like, well, now you just have coverage issues. So you're already immediately debunking yourself while thinking you have something against me. Then it's like, well, it seems like you don't understand how stab works, because that's the thing about Wailord. Heavy Slam is the same damage as Waterfall. It doesn't matter if your Water-type Pokemon doesn't have a Water-type move, if it's a 120 base power move regardless, at least in most cases with Heavy Slam, and even the not 120 base power moves, it doesn't matter, because you use 2-3 curses, and then you're 1-2-shotting anything anyways with even a 100 power Heavy Slam. So to debunk me, this guy shows Heavy Slam dealing more damage to Pidgeot than Waterfall. That's weird. And can only find legendary and mythical restricted Pokemon examples. So because Xerneas takes less damage from a Heavy Slam is bad. And I don't stand up against Arceus or something. And here's where we start getting into problems, because this dude splits the conversation so much. So they say, use Waterfall. I debunk them on that. And then while being debunked, they also start another reply thread inside of this tweet. So how hard is it to know what stab does? Well, I just explained it, and they can't deal with it. Also, why even run Curse when you want Wailord to do damage? Specs. Make it a bulky attacker instead of trying to set up with a Pokemon that isn't even good in the first place. This is coming from a Wailord stan. Just making things up. Okay, like Specs Surf, or Choice Band Waterfall, or Specs Scald. Again, one Curse, and then you're already on the same amount of damage, and you have more durability. So Curse is just better. And then here's where you realize this person knows absolutely nothing about competitive Pokemon. 90 special attack specs, and less EVs to invest into 45 defenses. You're recommending a garbage moveset right here, and then they say, why would I invest into defenses? Are you a moron? You invest it into special attack and hit points. Speed and defense stats are low. So they don't understand how EV investment works. And even though anyone watching my video should understand how it works, that if you go 252 EVs into hit points, you're taking, this is just kind of like a whatever hit. We're getting a super effective hit, just kind of shows a damage analog where it's like, all right, taking 42 to 50% on a random, just kind of big hit onto the Wailord. If we actually split the EVs and go 128, 128, we are bulkier than a 252 EV investment into hit points. So this dude just like gave the dumbest possible EV spread by saying like, oh, you go 252 hit points, you go rest special attack, spec surf, and it's better than Heavy Slam Wailord. Even though that is objectively wrong, because even if we go 252 into special attack for the surf, splitting defenses, investing in the lower thing works because that's how stats operate. So the way that EVs work is that 4 EVs gives you a stat point at level 100, and you can max out at 252, and this is going to give you 64 points in a stat. But basic math already kind of shows you if we're dealing with flat values, we're going to get more of a percentage gain by boosting into the lower stats, like 126. And then we max that out, we just kick that up to 189. We just got 50% more defense, whereas this is what, like 15% more hit points? So we're getting way more by putting it into the lower defensive stat, and this also works for offenses, and has other weird damage theory implications in other Pokemon. So it's actually insane that like the defenses being low is a good thing when you're investing into it like this, and if we went 252, 252, like my original moveset showed, we even cut that down more. So we're taking significantly less damage from all hits in all situations, no matter what. So this person that says, like, I'm the moron, I don't understand anything about competitive Pokemon, proves that they understand nothing about competitive Pokemon multiple times now. They fail at same type attack bonus, they fail at understanding movesets, and now they also don't understand effort values. Also, its attack stat is the exact same as special stat, so what drugs are you on? Okay, so that means like 80 power on Waterfall, versus 90 power on Surf, that's not enough to be like, oh, you can only run Wailord as a special attacker, and that kind of show, like, yes, if you go for a Curse, that's 50%, that's a choice item. So I also don't understand, like, how stat boosting works. Why would you even set up on Wailord? If you read anything else I said, I outright said using Wailord as an attacker is dumb, they should be used as a Scald user. Oh wait, another part in the conversation where he split it. Wailord is a tanky Scald spammer, anything else is dumb. No proof, no examples, I've already debunked him on that entirely, and that's also really funny because if you go to the only recommended moveset from Smogon, which they then reference later, it's like, yeah, you do bulky Scald, so this dude's like trying to run two different movesets to say my Heavy Slam is wrong, and both of the movesets are just terrible. So it's like, okay, we have bulky Scald. That's all this Wailord can do. But it also has the exact same problem of being mono coverage, which is what makes the Heavy Slam Wailord bad, but not when their moveset has it. Then they say, use the Smogon moveset written by someone who wins tournaments to prove myself right. Referencing someone that has no actual, like, accomplishments doesn't make you right. That's kind of a weird thing. So it's like, this was written by Pokemon is Fun and Twix. Like, nobody's in a casual made-up format for Pokemon. And it's the same thing as their ZU Default 1 that's a sample set and has no analysis. Oh boy, someone won an unofficial Smogon PU tournament that had like 20 people enter. That means everything they say is automatically great about the game and they can do no wrong, and their moveset is automatically better than everything else, even though like there's videos of me winning large tournaments on this channel, although unofficial, as well as doing well on the official ladder, so that's something. Now, because the discussion split so many times, I have to do extra work to like reassemble the timeline. So remember, they said all of these like weird, negative, and nasty things about me because Xerneas beats Wailord. And that makes me a moron that's bad at Pokemon and doesn't understand anything, even though I've already like immediately super duper hard debunked them on like the basics of Pokemon stats. So yeah, you need a restricted legendary Pokemon that my moveset was never made to counter. Exactly, like restricted. It's a Wailord from Generation 6. Well, how are you trying to make any point off of that? So look at the examples here. Okay, Arceus. Even against a Fairy type, Waterfall does more damage. Yes, the bulkiest restricted Fairy type that this moveset was never made to encounter. Something lightweight on average in a Final Evolution sense, with poor defenses, Heavy Slam still doesn't do enough to solidify it over the other. It does the same damage and doesn't get immuned. So, what's that? You know, even against Fairy, Waterfall does more damage, but you hit it with a Sylveon, and then Heavy Slam is double the damage because it's 120, super effective, into a very common Fairy-type Pokemon. But he was referring to his example of Xerneas. Then I try to reset the conversation because it's like, wow, I just immediately won because this person understands nothing about EV investment inside of Pokemon. So max special attack, max hit points, they know nothing about Pokemon. Dude said 60 speed is terrible. That's not what we're talking about. You're saying your defense is bad. And I said you put defense split EV investment. So they said, why would I invest into defenses? It's terrible, and for some reason they deflect in the speeds. So like, they're having a different conversation in their mind. They are living in a different reality that they have fabricated from just being hateful their entire lives and too much exposure to the internet. So a lot of weird stuff going on. I said nothing about speed. You're lost, so you don't know the argument anymore. You said investing in defenses is wrong, which is wrong. I'm trying to figure out where this person is in the conversation so I can actually like show them the EV example. Special kind of stupidity. Because I'm making it about, like, they said investing in defenses is wrong. I'm trying to be like, yeah, you're wrong for saying that, let me show you, and they can't even, like, they have to keep deflecting. They can't ever accept any point of reality. It's really weird. So you can invest into them by meeting the middle ground of using your offense variant. I never had an offense variant, and because they haven't admitted that hit points are ineffective in every possible case for Wailord, like, you know, it's still wrong. How are you bad at Pokemon? I'm literally stating I'm building an offensive-based Wailord. But why? Like, why are you taking my bulky setup Wailord, changing it to offense, and saying I'm wrong and your set is better, while also referencing the Smogon movesets, which isn't offensive in any way? Like, setup will always beat offense. That's why setup is so strong. How much are you actually reading? I'd really like to know. So by this point, the dude has completely lost to the voices in his head, and it's now impossible to keep up with them. They have completely shattered and fragmented as a person. I'm reading more than you, apparently. You have a different conversation going on. You said defenses are bad, so you would invest in hit points. Your specs moveset, and it's objectively bad, proves you know nothing about Pokemon. Making sure, and then, like, so what happened was, like, I said the same thing, but I, like, can't edit a reply, so I just kind of, like, changed up the formatting, and then they post one of their tweets inside of this to try to debunk me. Wailord is, it's like, I don't get it. They say Wailord is a tanky, Scald spammer. Anything else is stupid. But then they say they want to go offensive specs, surf, and then at one point they were like, oh, Scald Ice Beam. And now they're trying to say, like, something about an offensive Wailord. So, like, they need to address my Wailord set, which they just refuse to. So my moveset is better than that by making Wailord tankier, and 1-2 shot almost any sweeper completely safe. Because if Wailord is at double, triple, quadruple defenses and attack, it just wins. So my opponent is stupid and doesn't just burn the Wailord or kill it while it's spamming setup. Except my Wailord moveset was Chesto Resto. It's like, you can't burn the Wailord. It's actually burning the Wailord auto-loses the game. And you can't just kill a Pokemon that's setting up. That's kind of the whole point. So yeah, it has rest, so burning is a free turn. Thanks for letting me win. KOing Wailord isn't easy since it's gaining tank stats. Heavy Slam so bad it 2-hit KOs Garchomp while tanking. So just trying to say, like, oh, Heavy Slam is no damage compared to Waterfall, which is why you're wrong, but then all you need is +4 on the curse, and you 2-hit KO with Heavy Slam. +4 on the defensive curse means that you're just not taking any damage from the Garchomp, and they say at +4, no one is letting Wailord live that long, and then I show Garchomp literally has no choice in letting it live that long. So what happens is Garchomp hits you with an Earthquake. That's going to put you around like 58% hit points, but then you curse. So now you have defense over the Garchomp. So that means it's only going to be able to hit you for like 27%. Now you're at 31% hit points and a +2. So then what you do is rest. You take 20% from the Garchomp, leaving you at 11%, but now you're back at full. And then Chesto Berry activates, and now you're +2/+2, and Garchomp can never hurt you again. But remember, nobody is letting Wailord live that long, even though Wailord just kind of auto-won. Also, if you like get really good at tank setup, after the rest is when you take the opportunity to realize, like, oh, the opponent is going to switch. They realize, like, they've just completely lost this physical matchup. They don't have special attackers left. You win the game at that point, insta, or you throw in an Amnesia, because it's completely safe to Amnesia. So even if they switch out Garchomp or hit you with a 20% Earthquake, you Amnesia. And then you curse, and then you Amnesia, and then you rest, and then you wake up, and now you're +6/+6/+6, and you win the game. So yeah, Garchomp literally has no choice but to let Wailord live, and then they just go completely deranged. You just changed its build. EQ nukes 50% of its life, literally. Except, right here is Earthquake not nuking 50% of its life. Also, I didn't change the build. Like, I had hit points here as a default to show a setup Wailord because it's going to set up... This is damage. This isn't even about, like, the Garchomp matchup. This is me taking his 252 hit point investment that he just said, and then I show, like, but yeah, also if you get +4, like, Heavy Slam actually 2-shots a Garchomp. So the drawbacks of running Heavy Slam are non-existent when you have, like, one of the most meta Pokemon ever, and then I kind of show him, like, I didn't change the build. Here's the 9-year-old build. So this person is thinking, like, I time traveled 9 years in the past just to change my Wailord video, just to, like, try to lie in a tweet thread. Like, I don't know. Like, this dude's completely lost. He's completely gone. So yeah, I didn't change the build. That's a build from 9 years ago. You also say nukes 50%, max rolls 45%, Earthquake Curse, rest, and then you just win. And at that point, it's a 75% chance for a 4-hit KO. So you're able to Amnesia Curse, Amnesia Rest, Curse, Amnesia Rest, and you win the game. There's nothing the opponent can do, and this is the spread that's always been, that they said is bad, that no one will be able, like, no one can let Wailord set up against because Wailord's bad. And then I just proved him wrong with one of the most meta Pokemon ever. So yeah, like, they just go completely crazy. What's his 252 hit points? Like, that's them. And then, as you can see, like, when defeated, it's deflection and toxicity and just being a weirdo. Me, when I'm in a contest of who can't read, and my opponent is Verlisify. I still didn't even get him to, like, see that defense investment is better than hit point investment, because he's just that that unwell. Deflecting because you've been proven wrong and have no argument, even on multiple times you change the topic since you're incapable of holding a coherent point. Just kind of clear. And also, like, look at this. I said in my argument numerous times, you haven't responded to like half the stuff I've said, even though I clearly responded to everything with a debunk into how his mechanical understanding of Pokemon is completely wrong. And it's impossible because everything has 2 replies, including this. And the funny thing about this is like it all fits into one. So he has to make, you know, a personal ad hominem attack here, but it all could have just gone the same tweet. So once again, like that terrified, that desperate to deflect. At some point, this dude quote retweeted me and said, "I did what you do, call people out. Except I'm always right when I call people out, and no one has ever shown me to be wrong in any of my callouts. Congrats, you just called yourself miserable, delirious. Also played right into my hand. They are gone." And then they just kind of go off into their own solo ramble, and then they also bring up something else that aged like fine wine, because apparently I'm a hypocrite. Said he'd be hypocritical, and he was. How nice is it to be 9 gazillion steps ahead of someone? This dude has major issues and just keeps showing it to the world. You know, I was like, what lie is this? Like, at one point, did hypocrisy get fabricated in this dude's mind from all of this stuff? So I asked, you know, when did I say I'd invest in his defense? What kind of stupidity were you born with? You said hit points and special attack, which is objectively bad. Like, I'm still trying to figure out, like, where his hit point stuff is coming from. Like, hey, let me explain to you that even 128 defense is better than 252 hit points because you understand nothing about Pokemon, which shows that you can't even be valid in critiquing my Wailord moveset because you know nothing about Pokemon. The funny thing is, hypocrisy was outright stated. Do you not read? The hypocrisy in question would be him saying that. Would be me saying what? Smash Ult character roleplay thing. Here's proof. Even if he says dumb stuff about me, pretend to be a Smash character for a little. At no point in this conversation did I say, oh, you have a Smash avatar, your opinion is discounted, and you're a weird role-playing account. I never said that. But somehow he predicted that I would say that. I didn't say that, and that makes me a hypocrite. So I can't know what that means as outright stated hypocrisy. And he called me out, but I just debunked him on everything about competitive Pokemon knowledge. So then I tried to bring the conversation back, because at this point, it's impossible to know what's going on in their deranged mind, what point they're trying to make, or what point they even originally tried to make. This is them thinking they are being coherent and summarizing all the points. It's like, the Wailord build is bad, even though I just like completely debunked that this entire time, and they completely ignored it while saying I wasn't reading any of their tweets. Not only does it not do well versus most metas as a whole, except it was crafted for the Generation 6 meta, and Dumpster's Garchomp, so that's completely wrong. It has better competition as a whole, does better than what it's trying to achieve, Gyarados and UU. Its best set will and has always been the Scald variant. I debunk that, and they are just arbitrarily saying that because the Z-tier Pokemon with a sample set that has no analysis automatically makes it the best set just because someone posted it on Smogon. The damage output when it comes to coverage is lacking. Scald only is the best move set. When I do more damage with Heavy Slam on one move, even compared to like other move sets they pitched themselves, due to the overuse of Heavy Slam. This results in immediate power being better in every case. The immediate power of a 4 EV invested Scald on a Pokemon that has 90 special attack. I don't even think it's possible for them to comprehend what they've said or what they are saying. Its optimal set will always be a bulky Scald user, so it's like they keep saying the Scald set. They don't make anything else for this. Like, immediate power is better in every case, but the optimal set is bulky Scald. And then they couldn't accept the damage calculations because they need legendary Pokemon to prove me wrong. It gets checked by multiple electric and grass types, except if you have an Amnesia set up into a special attacker, or you set up Amnesia once you've checkmated their physical attacker because they're forced to switch at that point, and you are free to Amnesia because you're no longer an AKO threat. Also, this dude just like, oh, your water type loses to electric and grass, therefore your moveset is bad. The Scald Wailord loses even harder to the electric and grass types, because it has no way of defending itself or having any damage threat. And then they just kind of reiterate the first thing where it's like, you actively participate in a community that despises you, but this is the average person in the community that despises me. You preach about hypocrisy when you are more hypocritical. No proof, never elaborates, just says it. You abundantly call out people for things yourself do. As an example from this conversation, you said I was living a life of hatred, among other things. Except that's actually, like, been proven. This dude is too hateful, toxic, and deranged to accept any facts, any flaws in their argument, even when they're objective, like 252 hit points being worse than splitting defense investment on a Wailord, because they say defenses are bad, and because of Pokemon's low defenses, you should never invest into it. Even though they didn't even, like, read Smogon's own moveset, or, like, realize anything they've said at any point in this conversation. They are completely detached from reality. And while I was trying to juggle the multiple conversations with this dude, he was also in a hate echo chamber with other people, just mocking me the entire time. But that doesn't make them toxic, and that makes me hypocritical for calling them toxic for all their actions all the way in this point. Where they say, I'm going to be blunt, you're worthless. Which is pretty insane projection from someone who only has fond memories of being a child and hating on someone for the last 9 years. And then we get into actual schizo behavior. So again, this person has also been claiming they've been so many steps ahead of me and predicting everything I'm going to say. And they've even been in like a private group chat with other hateful, toxic people that represent the Pokemon community and pretending that they're predicting me. Next action he will make be trying to denounce any such claims. Again, like, what claims of what? That's all there is to this. So once again, the discussion that's locked away in their own mind is a prediction of my behavior. Like, the next action he'll make be trying to denounce any such claims. Like, claims that I'm worthless, even though I've just, like, completely debunked him the entire time. You know, like he said, like, I asked you to read the whole thing before responding. I read the whole thing, but again, he left, like, 20 replies, so it makes it kind of impossible. Garchomp isn't electric or grass. Every Pokemon has counters. The set is viable, and I showed you how Wailord can set up on many different Pokemon as long as it's not a super effective special attacker. Your own stupidity can feed you. It's what keeps people human. So now they're going on like some kind of philosophical ramble. Whether you choose to listen is up to you and your own subconscious mind, no matter how insipid and idiotic it may be. So, like, I guess me denouncing his projection of my mind being insipid and idiotic means, like, he nailed the prediction. That's all he... Again, like, all they have is, instead of actually dealing with the arguments, or defending their position, or trying to debunk anything I've actually said, it's just a picture reply that does nothing, because they're toxic. More deflection, because you've been proven wrong. Good job no longer replying, because you're just toxic to the brim. I will no longer reply to someone who's stuck in their own morphed and delusional ways. So I was like, good job no longer replying as you reply. And then reply again. And then inside of this conversation, he thinks he has like even more predictions. The next action he will make is being insultive and deflective in nature. More deflection from being proven wrong, and you're hateful. Like, I'm just stating how it is. But because he can't address any of my arguments anymore, he's completely lost it. Then they say I'm just looping when I like call out all of this stuff, so I guess like that projection gives us some more insight into how unwell this person is. I debunked what you said. Never. Like, I'm still waiting for him to realize that he's wrong about 252 hit points. They also completely deflected when I said, hey, here's an example of one of the most meta Pokemon ever getting set up on by Heavy Slam Wailord. And, you know, I debunked what you said, Smogon has too. Smogon isn't an authority. It's like, and also like Smogon isn't an authority either. Like, someone just puts a moveset on the website. That doesn't make it better than any of my movesets. That's why we have damage calculations. That's why we have discussions. That's why we try to work out like how the Pokemon can actually function. And Tanky setup was really, really good back in Generation 6. That's why I ran Snorlax. And the option for Wailord is everyone says, oh, Verlisify, your movesets are taunt bait. Wailord has Oblivious. So it's a less reliable Snorlax, but it also can't be taunted. So if you actually like get in that position where, because no one's ever seen a Wailord before, they see you use Curse and then they try to taunt you, you just bought another turn. And like, you can't even say like, oh, that's a misplay, because again, like, no one's game knowledge is going to be 100% perfect inside the game. So you have like your own advantages there, and also you're like, yeah, they just lose that option. If it's a not super hard hitting Pokemon or a choice locked Pokemon that is hitting you neutral, Wailord wins the game. Then they say, I'm deflecting again. when I've never deflected, I've addressed everything directly, and I've pushed them to defend their stance or elaborate further, where they then deflect. Because, like, saying Smogon isn't an authority is not a deflection. That's just a fact. It's not. You can't just give a link of Smogon and say you're debunked. And even when it says these are sample sets, we don't work on analysis. Like, I'm debunking you. That's not a deflection. That's a debunk. This isn't entirely about the Wailord set. I've given calcs in numerous times, showing that you've been wrong. Xerneas doesn't count. Arceus doesn't count. Pidgeot takes the same damage. And you wouldn't allow the Heavy Slam Wailord to exist because he calls Heavy Slam Wailord offensive, even though it's bulky setup, and he said bulky Scald is the only way to play Wailord, while also being a 252 special attacker. With Surf, I don't know what happens here. One of the biggest morons I've ever met used Heavy Slam when you could have used Surf. So that's like, where did any of this come from? So you went from Surf to Scald to attacker bad to bulky to my Heavy Slam being attacker. Not only is Wailord an IQ check, it's also a sanity check. Your set sucks. You fight for something you aren't a part of, and I ask you why you do such a thing. What was this? I don't get it.